This is why HYBE is the best company right now. Real quick, if you hear some background noise going on, there's some shenanigans going on in my building. I don't know what the hell is going on out there. One thing's for sure, when they switched from being Big Hit to HYBE, I knew something was going down. I don't know if many people remember this, but before being called HYBE, they actually were called Big Hit labels. And that's actually the first reason that I want to talk about. It's they bought other companies instead of like trying to start a bunch of new groups. It's like they're playing one big game of Monopoly. In this metaphor, all the other labels are basically just trying to get lucky and stay out of jail, while HYBE is buying all the land. To me, it's like they're thinking in bigger terms, like on some LVMH stuff, or I guess to keep it in Korea, on some CJ stuff. Okay, but why is that? Why is that a reason? Why is that interesting? Well, if you think about it, the way a lot of companies in the West work is they acquire other companies. Mergers and acquisitions is this big old industry here. And when those companies succeed, you succeed. It's like what is it? A rising tide moves all ships, right? Is that how it goes? Instead of like pretending that they know it all and starting a company doing this and doing that, they just buy the companies that are already succeeding or that they think they can help succeed. They don't want to start from zero. You see my point? Going into the actual music and artistry side though, they create IP around their artists to capture revenue from a bunch of different angles. Like BT21 has been a thing for a minute, right? But when they dropped Tiny Ton, like around, I guess, Dynamite era, that's just a really good example of how they take their IP and create new spins and new merch off of one idea, which in that case was BTS. And keep going with BTS, that whole learn Korean with BTS thing is another example, but it's interesting because they tied it into another branch of HYBE, which is HYBE EDU. I don't know, I guess they see all these like really successful online companies that are trying to teach the language and they want a piece of that pie too. I don't know. I thought it was really interesting. And having the literal biggest group in the world be the face of that so that you can interact with the biggest group in the world. It's a perfect harmony right there. And not to mention that whole like webtoon Wattpad thing they got going on and, making full stories and lore and stuff with TXT and Hypen and BTS. It's another example of how to take the idea of the group and create new products, which in this case is like stories that people can consume to raise more awareness for the groups. Now, this next point is where the big boy terminology here and the big boy concepts come in, or big girl. Naver acquired a part of, if I'm not mistaken, weverse. Okay? I'm assuming it's, I don't think it has to do with competition because VLive is a streaming platform and Weverse is more of a content platform. But the whole point is that for Weverse growth, or for Naver's own growth, they invested into Weverse. VLive is obviously huge. It's like the number one platform idols used to stream on. But at the same time, HYBE has a piece of the pie. They have an investment stake in YG, specifically YG Plus, which is a distribution company. Also, side note, I think this is really interesting that HYBE went with YG because Dream Us, which I think is how it's pronounced, is JYP and SM. So maybe it's like HYBE and YG wanted to go on their own side. I don't know. But the point is that they invested into YG. In exchange, HYBE has to use YG Plus for all their distribution. But in exchange for that, YG artists have to join Weverse. So you see how like the naver, weverse, YG thing kind of plays in? That I thought that was really cool. It's like they did this to grow, and then they took step 2 to grow even more. It's like a planned attack. Maybe they're trying to help YG. I mean, YG's not the most shining example of success in this industry right now. No disrespect. I mean, look at SM, look at JYP, look at HYBE, obviously. They're making all these shimmering, glimmering moves, and YG's kind of just like there. Maybe they're even trying to acquire YG slowly. I think the number I saw when I last checked is that they own 18%. That number can go up. I mentioned LVMH earlier. That's how they acquired a lot of their portfolio, is they acquired a piece more and more as time went on. Now, I'm not too educated on the whole Ithaca thing, as in, HYBE owning them and stuff, and what the whole purpose for that was. You could say maybe HYBE wants to start an American division, which I think actually turned out to be true because they're going to do some sort of NCT Hollywood type thing where they make a group out of a show and it's going to be a Western group, something like that. But maybe that has to do with that. Maybe they just wanted to, the same way they bought Source and Pledis and this and that, they just wanted to have the management company that runs Justin Bieber, Ariana Grande, J Balvin, so forth. I don't know, maybe. As far as looking into the future, HYBE's got a couple things up their sleeve too. There's this one company called Dunamu or Dunamu. I haven't read the Korean writing of it, so I don't really know how it's pronounced. But they're a company that's based on like NFTs and like digital assets and blockchain type stuff. And if you look at the recent current events and landscape, La Seraphim is about to debut under HYBE. And what do they got? Digital souvenirs, which are exclusive to you that you own, and there's only a limited amount, and you can later on mint them to an NFT. You see how that connects there. And they also have stake in this one company called Supertone, which apparently is a company that specializes in creating realistic voices. So like a deep fake, but for a voice. My conspiracy is, and this is kind of uncanny here, but my conspiracy is, you know, you create a very realistic, maybe even a deep fake, but a very realistic fake, I don't know, J-Hope, for example, right? And with this technology, you put his voice into the video or whatever content you're making, and here we are. You're making new BTS content without the members having to be there. Does that make sense? That kind of goes with the IP thing that I mentioned before. It's a little weird. It's a little meta because it's like, it's not really them. But like, it is, but no, it's not. You see, I don't know. It's weird. Again, that's just a theory I have though. If you look at the whole playing board of like the steps HYBE has taken over time, it literally all just compounds and butterfly effects into like this big corporation thing that they are today. And honestly, I was a big SM fan, you know, as far as like the innovations they've done and the steps they've taken, but HYBE took the throne, to be honest, man. Listen, there's probably things I'm missing, and there's definitely going to be things to come that they do that I support. So to be quite honest, as this whole history unfolds, I'm going to be here to cover it. So anyway, that's all I got. Also, really quick, just like ending side note, I don't know what was in big hits like Water back in like 2015, 16, because BTS is the best turnaround of all time. I mean, like, how do you go from dropping like No and Danger and then turn around and drop I Need You, Run, Fire, Save Me, Butterfly, Forever Young, and all that? Like, what happened there? Like that's one of the best bodies of work, and where did that come from? Like, I just want to know.